So I know one of the biggest emotions that people have when they lose their pet is guilt. I've
Mm,
just seen it time and time again, whether we think we didn't do enough towards the end when the pet maybe was sick, or even if let's say a dog ran out and got hit by a car. I just know it is a tremendous burden to feel guilt when you've lost a pet and you're already trying to grieve. So guilt just kind of
right.
piles on that. What advice can you give us, or how can you help navigate those of us that may be feeling guilty for the loss of their pet?
Yeah, guilt is a really challenging emotion. Um, and I wanted to address this, and I'm glad you bring it up. The incidence of traumatic loss when it comes to pet loss is something to be mindful of. So, like, honestly, I don't consider what I went through a traumatic loss.
Mm,
In the sense that I knew it was coming, I knew he was sick, and we were able to kind of plan when he passed. Um, a traumatic loss typically has to do with um, an immediate accident um, or a pet dying when they're young, right? Like an
mm,
untimely death, those types of things. Um, so when traumatic loss happens, that tends to increase the likelihood that someone's going to feel guilt. But of course, a lot of people feel guilt in relationship to any time of pet loss. So guilt comes up when, as humans, we have a sense that we can control just about anything. Um, there's this worldview called the just world theory, which is like, if I do good and I follow the rules, then good things are going to happen for me. Right. And worldviews like that help us organize structure in a really chaotic world. So when something like loss happens, deaths happen that we don't have any control or influence over, that challenges our worldview, right? And so what ends up happening is people internalize the locus of control to themselves as like, well, I did something, I could have changed something because that is more comforting to them than being like the world is really big and scary and unpredictable,
yeah.
right? It's easier to be like, well, it's me.
Mhm.
I did
Yes.
something, as opposed to saying, wow, we all have to face death at some point, and that's terrifying.
Yeah. And I mentioned when I lost Nomar, I felt guilty because, you know, part of it was traumatic in the sense that my normal vet wasn't there. So I was like, this vet
Yeah.
what doesn't know Nomar, but I still made the decision to say goodbye, even though we didn't have a concrete diagnosis. And that really bothered me and got more intense as the days and the weeks went on. Um, and I don't have it on me, but I got a journal with Nomar's name kind of engraved on it. And I started writing letters to him just to
Love
tell
that.
him, like how
Love
much I
that.
loved him. And
Yep.
then I started to think about this mantra, two things were I loved him more than anything else in the world, and I did the best I could
Yep.
with the resources I had at the time, and just
Yep.
to make myself and I'm not
Yep.
saying the guilt will ever go away 100%, but it has lessened, and I think those things have helped me. Uh,
Yeah, and so what you were doing, you were intentionally taking charge of the narrative that you applied to that situation,
mhm,
right? So for me, were there things I probably could have done to prolong Sherbert's life? Absolutely. But they wouldn't have improved his quality of life. And for me, with all my animals, my whole life, it's been about quality more than quantity. And so I see it as the ultimate act. And this, I realize, is my story and my narrative. I see it as the ultimate act of compassion and love to say,
mm,
I'm going to help stop your suffering.
yes,
Like that's huge. So for me, that helps me if, if I'm feeling feelings of guilt or like those questions of, could I have done more? And those questions are so natural and common because we want people, we want our animals, we want people to live the best lives they can. But quality, I think, is so much more important than quantity, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
And I have a cool resource. I'm excited about this. So I put a short book together called "It's Not Your Fault,"
Oh, I love
uh,
that.
and it's really cool because I decided to. So the book is kind of a lesson on how to help you through this feelings of guilt that you might have with pet loss. But the characters, so I have characters in the book. They're myself, Nomar, and Mia, and it's Mia teaching me a lesson of not feeling guilty about the loss of Nomar, and then I hired, somebody to illustrate it. Almost looks like a children's book, but it's made
Yeah,
for adults, and it could be,
yeah.
made for children as well. But if you're interested in that, it's a free, downloadable book. Just in the comments, if you're watching here, just write the word or type the word "book," and I'll be sure to get that to you.